You know, and then in 85, 86, most of us remember the catastrophe that hit the E&C industry. We were in a total drought. Work disappeared. We were having to reinvent the company I was with at that point, a company called Brown and Root. And we were trying to find ways and means to proceed. And we got introduced to the SDG approach, which we felt was very unique in that I call it the whole brain approach to strategy. And when I say whole brain, you got to use both the creative side of your brain, the right side of your brain, forcing yourself to say, okay, what could we do? What are the possibilities? Is it geographic? Is it product? What are the new ways and means that we need to deliver products and services to our customer? It's a fun time when you're developing strategy, when you're using the right side of your brain, because, I mean, you're thinking out of the box. But the SDG model not only allows you to do that, it forces you then to put your left side of your brain, the analytical side, together. And you take the alternatives that you've generated and you start putting probabilities, financial probabilities, probabilities of success. And it also forces you to determine what are the resources required to go achieve your strategy. And that was one of the things that we found unique to the SDG approach, which led, as Norm knows, led to us really reinventing Brown and Root and put us on a great path to success for many, many years.
So while Bo was the person who actually put the process or initiated the process with SDG, I was fortunate enough to be one of the participants in the core. And the process of which the SDG folks follow is very interesting because it incorporates lots of people with specific experience in the businesses, in the business units, and it challenges them within the context of the process of strategy, both thinking out of the box as well as being very much about what is occurring in terms of opportunities and competitiveness and margins and all the things that go in with it. Oftentimes, strategy work gets so locked into a future state and imagining a future state without actually designing from what is and then putting in place. And I think that the other thing that occurs in the way the process works is that as you're working through this, which in the case of this particular deal, was a very long process. I think it took us some months, 6 or 9 months to go through it.
You did.
So what occurred is during the whole working through the process, it becomes the beginning of buy-in, because the people who are going to be then involved in executing are involved in developing the strategy.
Key point that Norman made is the fact that it's a buy-in process. So many times when you want to do a strategy, you go get an expert. Expert comes in. Expert goes around, interviews everybody, creates a strategy, presents. Everybody looks at it, oh, it sounds good. You put it on the shelf. This process utilizes your organization,
Exactly.
where you're getting people engaged and you're forcing them to think alternatives, not just one,
Exactly.
but you create alternatives. And so you've got multiple levels of the organization engaged, and the decision process forces everybody, not only the team that's creating it, but the management and the executive or the board level to buy in. So when you finish, you've got something that you hope and should have everybody's committed to. That's the key. Is it real? Can we do it? Do we believe in it? And if so, then you're on the road to a great approach to strategy.
The other thing that comes out of the process, because while it is qualitative in terms of scenarios, it forces you into a quantitative analysis. And it is not just one scenario. It is a number, maybe 30 scenarios and alternatives. And then you have the ability to value those and risk adjust them. I'm telling you, it's one of the most powerful tools I've used in turning around companies. It is clearly an opportunity to evaluate what you have and to begin to create the opportunities that you see and value them against a base case, which is the status quo.
And the great thing about it is the model, the approach. You can use it on a department, you can use it on a division, you can use it on a geographic area, and you can use it obviously across the whole company. But you're doing it by part, and you're building the parts, you're creating the individual pieces that then become part of the total strategy. The other thing, to me, it honed my skills on coaching. A lot of times you quote know the answer, and you're just waiting for everybody to hurry up and give you the answer that you want. Well, this process helped me become both a listener and a coach, because my responsibility in the process was to challenge the different individual components that we were trying to develop a strategy for. In other words, beard the line. If they were building something on a sandbar, challenge them, but at the same time, coach them to get the best of their ability into the process, into the thought, into the creative process. And that's helped me the rest of my career. It's a life changer.
So most recently, we used the process in 2006 and went through a very detailed review after an incredible growth opportunity. We had taken a company and raised its revenue by 40%. The bottom line had increased by 100%. And we were feeling pretty confident about our future. And Dr. Kyle Swetzel and the boys and girls came in and worked us over and worked us through, because we got to the point where we said, okay, we're executing that which we had planned to do before, but what is our strategy going forward? Just because we are successful today, by certain definitions, doesn't have anything to do with what the future is going to be. And we went through a series, and I remember this so distinctly, and Kyle was challenging us in our scenarios to think about a recessionary time. This was in 2006. And we went through and developed 32 different scenarios. And we had one which was a recession and one which was a deep recession. And then from the ground floor up, we started to build what we would do in conditions if that occurred. And we looked at the number of plants we had in the United States and Canada and Mexico. We looked at the product line. It challenged us to really live in a recession. Now, I'll tell you that when it hit, it was far more severe than even we could imagine. But we were able to seamlessly move within 2 months into a pre-thought-through tactical plan about which plants would be shut down, how we would deal with all of our staff, how we determine who was to stay and who was to go. And it enabled us to move very quickly into a situation which was becoming terminal in terms of the reduction of business. And then, because we had been through the process, we could identify what was occurring and immediately go to a third phase that we created as a result of having created the first 2 phases. And it was the difference between surviving and perishing as a company. It was the difference. And it also became the difference in terms of the strategy work that we did, which enabled us to get a capital investment, because we had a strategy which included these scenarios that was quantitative, value-oriented, but tactically implemented. And we were able to with that same approach that got us to survive, we were then able to attract an investor, which was all the difference between between recapitalizing the company. It was, you know, it was huge.
It allows you to create a credible story, not only for the outside world, but for your team, your internal team.
When there's so many changes going on and variables, what it provides for the men and women who are in your leadership team and working from them is a place to stand. It provides a foundation for them to stand on to then appraise with some level of confidence what is occurring and where they want to go to. You know, we've been through a lot of different approaches, and we both have come through, you know, 30 years of doing these things and land in the same spot, that this was something very unique.
Unique. Life is not a bed of roses, we know that. Life is full of cycles, business cycles, technology cycles. And if you've got a goal, if you've got a strategic plan that you, in creating that plan, have thought of all these scenarios, it positions you to be able to meet the challenges. Because the one thing we know, there's a new challenge coming around the bend tomorrow, and it's probably coming about 180 miles an hour. So you damn sure better be ready for it.
And it's you know, it's interesting in the cliche about you know, change management. Well, one of the things the SDG process, you know, takes you through is you appreciate that change is a constant. It's not an extraordinary event, it's a constant. Change is constant. Therefore, if a strategy doesn't, and a tactical plan doesn't incorporate how one actually measures and has a more systematic approach and quantitative approach to understanding change, then you're really working off your back foot. You're working off a static plan that I don't think can ever measure up to one that is built on change and realizing that change is a part of the future.
Well said.